Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the next segment of Day 2 of 24th National Conference in HRD. Hope you have had an enjoyable session so far. You've been a lovely audience for sure, and we look at the participation stats and we say that so. Keep using our chat window to share your thoughts and reactions, and don't forget to post your questions in the Q&A window through the session. In this segment, we celebrate our distinguished women leaders who will be speaking to you about the evolution as a woman leader by way of sharing some of their very interesting and personal stories. And I have the honor of introducing our moderator of the session, Mr. Asif Iqbal. Asif is the Associate Director with PwC's Advisory Business in India. Before I move the mic to him, there are a few unique facts about him that I must share with all of you here. He lost total eyesight at the age of 16. However, he did receive his primary, secondary, and partial college degree from the States. He's also the first blind commerce graduate from St. Xavier's, Kolkata, as well as first MBA HR from Symbiosis. And if that was not enough, he was instrumental in creating reservation quota for people with disability in the Indian universities back in 2000. You can know more about him through a quick 3-minute YouTube profile video, details of which we will be posting in the chat window shortly. Asif, may I now request you to steer the session?
Fantastic. Thank you, Toshi. I'm really moved by your kind words. But today, I have the privilege and honor of moderating such an eminent personality, such a role model. And as agreed, I promise we will not share HR trend. We will not talk about workforce of the future. We will not talk about the HR challenges and the solutions, which we always start our day as a consultant. But today, we're actually going to see how all of these three role models, which are in front of us today, how they transformed from one individual like you and me to leaders of the workforce of today. Let me have the honor of introducing, again, I'll do a very brief because I really want to do a heart-to-heart connect because at the end of the day, we all want to learn and inspire and hopefully someday we'll follow in their footsteps, right? The first, I just want to say just 3-4 bullet points because if I go into their CV, probably it will take a much more longer time. So, Seema, what I really uniquely, I'm not on, I really found that unique perspective. Beside the fact that she still is our regional president for NHRD and North Chapter, she is also a proud Rotarian and, of course, has over 31 years of work experience and, of course, CHRO for Mahindra defense sectors. Madhavi, wow. I mean, I was extremely, it was a proud moment to just read her profile, but I would not say much today because I would like to learn her, by interacting and sharing my questions. And Madhavi is a mathematics graduate. Wow. I was never good at maths. and then, of course, an MBA from XLRI. What really moved me was she had a number of awards, and including the HR Lifetime Achievement Award, which was there. And she's on... and she's on the top 50 HR ET award, I think in 2022, and she was the founder member of HR community for Fiji. So and now coming back to Archana, what excited me that she, as an undergraduate of maths and psychology, wow, amazing combinations, and of course over 31 years of experience. And what I can, correct me if I'm wrong, but she has international posting. Wow. And I mean, I know it's not a big deal, but, being a leader, having exposure for all that, in my mind, managing all the stakeholders, including your own family, that must have been really challenging. And we'll get to know more about that today. Before we start, and as first of all, a big thank you to the audience for participating this in this channel in this session, and I would request you, please ask questions in the chat, and every 15 minutes we'll be taking questions from from the audience. So let's ask Seema. Seema, uh, what is one fun fact which is not mentioned in the public forum about you that you would like to let audience know?
Fun fact, lots, because in my role I interact with a lot of people, and they don't know. I mean, we shouldn't be judging people. I believe in that, but somehow it is built in. And while I'm interacting, my that the gut feeling tells me what kind of energy I am dealing with. So fun fact is energy tells me, and that guides me. So I really enjoy and working with that energy. So that's
Wow.
take it as a fun fact.
Wow, fantastic. Very unique replies, I would say. Huh? Okay, coming back to you, Madhavi. Um, what is one incident in your college life that you still remember which actually shaped you where you are today?
I say first of all, thanks for inviting me to this panel. It's great to sort of be here and hear from other people as well. I always learn from these experiences. So I can't think of one specific instance. And I kind of racking my head as you asked the question. Uh, I think I was fortunate enough to have parents who did not differentiate based on gender. So I think for me that made a difference to my life in the long run. I mean, they were very encouraging. They did not ever say that I mean, typically, I know in our family, in the extended family, the whole thing was okay. Get married. When are you getting married? And I was the eldest on both sides, and my parents never put that pressure. So I think for me that was important, and I think that sort of helped shape me and my sort of ambition to be in the workplace.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for being so candid and open, Madhvi. And open to you, Archana. I know you have a great responsibility on your shoulders and a great leadership. But we all, whether we belong to a lower pyramid of the corporate or the top of the corporate, we still have to upskill ourselves. So how do you manage to upskill yourself in spite your extremely busy schedule?
So, Asif, first of all, thank you. It's so lovely to be on a panel with you. I wish I interact with people like you every day. It's like you makes you feel so good about yourself. So, thank you for being so generous and so kind. I come from the belief that whatever doesn't improve becomes worse, whatever it is, whether it's your muscles or your energy or your body. And therefore, I think that I have to make time. If I'm not learning, I'm going to die as a professional. So whatever it is, whether it's I've had to change habits, like I hated listening to audios, but through COVID, I've picked up this habit of listening to podcasts, audio books when I'm walking, when I'm on the road, and that's really how I'm keeping it going.
Wow, fantastic. So, how many hours do you dedicate a week for upskilling? Let's put it that way.
And you know what? I'm kind of easily doing 4 hours a week, and I'm very proud of that.
Wow, that's a great thing, I would say, huh? Wow, fantastic. I mean, great. We'll come back to you again, Archana. And now I'm going back to Seema. Now, Seema, we have so much focus on well-being and health, but life. I mean, job is so demanding that we forget to take care of our health. What is your opinion? I mean, especially now we have gone through the pandemic. What is your opinion? Why should we focus on our health?
I think that's a very relevant question, Asif, because there's a paradigm shift when we look at health. Earlier, we used to look at work, 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 career, career, right? Of course, there was awareness about managing health, taking care of health. But I think last 2 years have really, really given us a different kind of perspective that health is wealth. I mean, I used to wonder what is health is wealth when I was young, sab theek thak hai, what is wealth, career and opportunities, you should look for. But I think last 2 years had taught us that actually it is wealth, right? Job can come and go, but your health you need to really take care. So how you could imbibe it in your daily work life, that is what matters. And I think people I come across, they have started their focus back on health as well, not just on the career front or family front. So
Wow,
a lot of changes
fantastic.
happened. Yeah.
Fantastic, Seema. So I must say that I'm very happy to say that I used to be 108, Seema, and now I'm actually 83. So thanks. This is a gift of pandemic, I guess. I look at a positive side. So, right. So coming back to Madhavi, you talked about, because of your parents, you got shaped up and you would, that kind of kindle a fire and ambitions. What do you feel about creating a support system in terms of family backing, in terms of house help, and what is your opinion while people navigate their career, the corporate journey?
I think it's a very good question, and I think somebody also asked this question here about, and it's kind of linked the answer to that. Somebody said, "Why do women opt out at they around 35? They opt out of careers which are very successful careers. So I'll answer that question after I answer your question. I think it's very important. So I'll give you my own example. When my son was born, I took some leave, the maternity leave, and then after that, I had to continue working because financially we needed that both of us to be working. We didn't really have financial support from our families, coming from a middle class families. I had to leave my son, who was 6 months old, with my in-laws, and it was heartbreaking. I don't think it was easy, but I think he flourished, I flourished, parents-in-laws were happy. But I took that the 6 months that I had to leave him there. I took time to build that support system at home, so that I could leave my son and go to work. And those days there was no work from home. The concept didn't exist. You know, so I think it's very, very important to build that support system if you want to continue in your career. And there are many people who will help. It's not an easy journey, but and it's. I think the reason and my response is linked to, I mean, also the question that was asked earlier. It's very easy for women in India to opt out of their careers. Nobody will breathe, nobody will say that, oh, why are you doing that? Because it's accepted that women will sacrifice or will, give up their career. And I think that's something that as we go through this whole journey of building inclusion in the organization, we've got to focus on how do you retain women at various stages in their life cycle, whether it's when they get married or when they have kids or they have kids go through 10th, 12th, etc. And how do we support women in that journey, really.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. That was my next question, which you have already answered pre-point. So thank you, Madhvi. And so coming back to Archana, we always talked about inclusion at workforce, inclusion at whatever we do, inclusion is a business imperative. But when I was growing up, I mean, and I'm sure because I grew up in the state of Bihar, and I'm sure because remember when we used to see at home the first hand of discrimination, like when we are there, then the food would be served to us, then rather than our sisters or cousins who are female. So how do you practice inclusion at home front?
So this is a
Sorry to
very
put you on this.
interesting.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, Archana.
So, you know what? This is a very personal question. For me, inclusion is about empathy. It's about accepting people for who they are, for enjoying them for what they bring, and listening, adapting. And my personal life is full of inclusion because I am a Maharashtrian, kind of brought up in a fairly liberal kind of home where my mother was a lawyer and so on. And I married somebody who's a Tamilian Brahmin, very conservative family, although he is my batchmate, my husband. And the differences are very stark in life, in the way people live, how women live, what they do, what they don't do. And I'm proud to say that with a lot of effort and sometimes lots of ups and downs, and managed to live in the same home. My in-laws live with me. They are 88 and 84 now. I've they accept me for who they are. I accept them for the wonderful things that they bring, culture, heritage, tradition, food that they bring. We've always managed to have in our household staff that is from different communities. So we insist that there must be from people from different religions, at least one woman, one man, and it's we make it work. I think that's what inclusion. That's how we practice inclusion. The girls of our helpers, and even the boys, we insist on educating, taking full responsibility for their education.
Wow.
Um,
Wow, really inspiring. I mean, Archana, I mean, Mala Marathi Yatni. That's the only thing I can speak in Marathi, and that's the regret that I have that I was in Pune for 2 years and I didn't learn Marathi. But then, nevertheless, but great, great. So
Asif,
before,
can I add something to what
yes,
Archana said?
please,
I
please,
think
man.
your question is really important, because we always look at what are organizations doing to encourage diversity and inclusion. But I think if each one of us can impact inclusion in our families, in our extended families, in our friend circle, we can really impact the larger society. I think. So I think it's an important question, and something that we should all probably think about.
yeah.
So thank you, thank you. So Toshi, if we can take a couple of questions from the audience, that'd be great.
Sure, Asif. In fact, looks like the audience is totally glued on to the discussion, and I'm only seeing so many positive, encouraging, and impactful responses here. One of them that is yet to be answered is that COVID-19 pandemic created a triple burden on women from previous double burden of home and family. Do you agree? What can an inspiring women leaders do in future to guide the others?
Oh, wow, fantastic. I think the most difficult question goes to Archana.
Um, It's been tough. It's been tough for many women through the pandemic, and some of us have been fortunate that, as Madhvi was talking about, and I'm sure Seema also experiences. We're lucky to be in a situation where we have a good support system, but we know that violence against women has increased in society, and women, in fact, have many women have chosen to go off the workplace or take breaks because they've really struggled to stay in the same home, do full time work, and take care of the families while everybody else was also at home. Coming to office gave them a reprieve which was no longer available. And so what shall I say? I think it's just encouraging each other from a corporate point of view, giving flexibility to women, understanding their context, are just small things that we can do. I think most importantly, being there for each other as human beings. That's what COVID has taught us, and this has
Yeah.
been the biggest help. Women being there for each other, finding other women. I mean, I know a lot of women who've discovered their friends and they love to talk to them now, where earlier they had no time for them. The support systems, new support systems have come up, new networks have come up, and new approaches in corporates of that have come up to help women cope with these challenges.
Wow, fantastic. And your thoughts, Seema?
Yeah, I think I would like to add here that a lot of things have changed. Now, this is based on my experience and people, the women I see around. I think that empathy has come from the family, empathy has come from the organizations. So, earlier, maybe we would call up any women employee late in the evening, work related queries, and call ups, free to call up. But now with this scenario, when they were working from home and cooking and doing everything, I think as an employer, you have become more mindful that, oh, this must be the cooking time, this must be that. So that mindfulness has really come in the organizations, in the employer's mind, manager's mind, family, spouses, partners, everybody. So that good thing has happened. This COVID has got us. I'm looking at the positive side of this pandemic.
Yeah, great. So, Madhvi, I'd like to ask you very, now women has been a part of the workforce for a long, long time now. But sadly, still women colleagues come to me and they, sometimes share the fact that they have to work, much more harder than the male colleague and to prove themselves almost, even in some cases, even double the time that they have to put in that time and effort. Um, what how did you handle it if you faced it? If not, what would be your advice to the colleague, and my in the HR community who might be actually experiencing the same thing?
I think it's true at times. So definitely at times, especially when there is a balancing act to be done. For example, if your child is going through some issues, or your in-laws or your parents are going through some issues, it is expected that the woman will do more than the man in the household, right? But if I look at the progress over the last 3 decades, I do see that things have changed. I mean, these days, men do sort of contribute at the household, not as much as should be there, but yes, I think organizations are doing a lot to help women balance this, and also through mentoring and coaching, we can actually help women become a little more confident about the fact that they don't have to work doubly hard; they have to just work smarter, and there are sort of programs around that. Yes, I think if I look at my career, many times I've had to work much harder. I feel, and and I'll give you one example. So when my son was really small, I think 3 or 4 years old, I used to make it a point to leave office at 7 o'clock, because I wanted to spend some time with him, because he would go to sleep at 8:30. And my boss at that time used to tell me, "Oh, you have a very good work-life balance." And I was like, not really. He didn't call it work-life balance. He said, she's leaving at 10. I said, I have my lunch at my desk. I don't take smoke breaks. I'm in office at 8:30 every morning. People troop in at 10. So I did say that to him, but it wasn't well taken. So I didn't get an increment the next year, by the way. I didn't get an increment the next year. But I think things have changed. Things have changed. I would like to think that things have changed. I think things have changed. I think organizations are more sensitive to both men and women. I think even the men go through issues, not just the women, right? Both
Yeah.
genders go through issues. I think organizations have become more sensitive. The advice I would give everybody is, if you're seeing this happen, try and talk to your manager, try and talk to your HR team. I'm sure you get that support. And as HR people, we need to provide that support to both men and women. To be successful, yeah, in the workplace. Really, I'll just give you one example. And I think sometimes it's not just about the in the moment support and coaching that you do, but also we've got to start changing the societal norms. For example, we in 2016 launched this leave policy, which is basically for the primary caregiver leave of 6 months. We made it gender neutral. We said a man can take 6 months leave a day, and so can a
Wow.
woman. You know, and I think that will help shift the roles as well. And at the time that we launched the policy, many people told us that men will not take this, and we've started to see men take that leave over the last few years. So I think this we've got to create an impact at individual level, at the society level, at the organizational level. That's my point of view, really.
Wow, fantastic. I
Could I
mean, it
also
makes
add on
sense.
here, Asif,
Yes, please,
from my
please.
perspective? I think what Madhuri said is 100% correct. And this is more for working women at middle management, middle age, sorry, young age. Don't try to be a superwoman. Okay, I learned it hard way, because most of us, we have in our mind, oh, women, we have to compete, we have to be better than men. Don't have that. you know you can't be a superwoman. Somewhere you would have something leave out. For instance, sometimes you have to miss your kids PTM, right? Sometimes you have to miss maybe some family wedding function, or maybe at work you have to mess up. So don't feel guilty about it, because once you start feeling guilty, then I think the graph starts trending down. So it's just a thought. I thought I'll share it with all
You
the
know,
women.
Seema, that's wonderfully said. And actually, we all have that as wisdom in hindsight. I mean, I didn't realize how much stress and guilt and pressure I was carrying unknowingly about all of these things. that I have to be there for the children, I have to be there for my in-laws, I have to get them to have the best food, I have to help them with their studies, and all kinds of things that women put pressure on themselves in order to, be the super person they were. I only realized this when both my children went off to university, and I had this sudden lifting of pressure from my head. And that's when I said, oh my God, I didn't even realize I'm carrying this all the time. So, very well
I think
said.
somebody,
Fully
yeah,
endorse that.
I think somebody in the chat has said there are also men who sometimes doing
Yes,
that, where they're managing
Yes.
a spouse who's,
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
I think it's for both
Yes, yes,
sides.
absolutely. I agree. Because I also have to tutor my daughter. So, I mean, I take the side of men too. But that's good. No, but very, very interesting discussion indeed. And now, I want to ask you another question to you, Archana. I mean, now, as we look at the board CXO levels or even in the top managements, we have been seeing some leakage in terms of female talent, women talent. And do you think just hiring women at the middle or at the bottom in the management level, is that the solution, or what do you feel that solution is?
Well, what you're saying, Asif, is a very short-term solution. Eventually, we are just taking from each other. So hiring more mid-management women into is can, give you great statistics for a little while. But we are here and we have this unique opportunity to help solve and address a societal challenge, which is of inclusion, which is of equity, which is of fairness. And therefore, we carry responsibility, particularly as HR professionals, to address the totality of it, which is, are you there through your efforts to help, women and diverse talent in schools, in livelihood education, in upskilling? Are you taking them enough at the entry level? Are you creating opportunities for them for equal progression, equal pay inside the organization? Do you have the policies to encourage them? And then soon, in a few years time, you will have enough of we would have together created lots of women into the workforce, and then there won't be this thing of, somehow find the women and ask specialist search firms to go, list them, search them, and bring them into the organization. So we've got to encourage this. We've got to take a slightly longer term view, and we've got to encourage a societal change on this. And we have the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely, absolutely,
I,
fully
I
agree.
agree with Archana. I agree with Archana that it just taking from each other doesn't help. You've got to sort of keep the retention piece. We've recently launched a program called Resume Your Resume, which many companies have done as well, which is basically women who've taken or men who've taken career breaks and want to come back to the workforce. How do you get them trained? How do you get them to then decide whether they want a full-time job and then whether they're suitable for our organization. I think if most organizations can do something like that, we can probably bring people back into the workforce. Diverse talent, I mean, women, of course, but there could be men as well who've taken a break and want to come back.
Wow,
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. So now I'd like to just again ask Tosi if there is any questions from the audience. Would like to take it here.
So certainly, and I think the questions are completely endless. But just staying on with the topic that we are on about resume that Madhvi spoke about, let me take the next one, which says, "Do your boardroom discussions on DEI and your employee conversations in the passage, the corridors, resonate with each other? And if you see any gaps, how do you plan to address them?"
Wow, great questions. I think Seema, would you like to take it up?
yes, absolutely. I was like waiting that this question comes and I just pause. I've done a lot of research in DNI because I champion DNI in my organization. So what happens is on the ground level things are different. At the board level things are different. Yes, everybody wants DNI. The kind of efforts organizations are putting in, of course, it's going to work on the conscious bias. Okay, but who's going to work on the unconscious bias is a question, and that comes from our society, from our DNA, that girls can do this, girls cannot do this, or this is only men's job. And I struggle a lot when I really convince my hiring manager that why don't you try women candidate here? They don't even want to see sometimes the profiles coming from women candidates, because they have that unconscious bias, कि तो दूर है, late nights है, how would they do it? And recently we cracked that. We spoke to some women folk around one of our plants, and we found out that they are equally good in doing night shifts and they want to do it. It's not that they don't want to do it. So a lot of things we need to do on the ground level, board level. There are a lot of gaps, and those gaps generally come from our unconscious bias too.
So,
Fantastic.
Asif, I'd just like to build on that. I think
Yes,
clearly
please.
there's a difference between what the aspiration is of at the board level and sometimes even of senior management with all the people in the organization. And this is something, as Seema said, is needs to be really addressed very specifically. Men as allies is a subject that is relatively unexplored and must be done, because at the end of the day, to create the inclusion, to actually be fair in assessing candidatures of women or men or people with disabilities, it's quite important that the people who today are in the position of hiring are able to look at this with fairness and equity. So very important to create allies amongst the men in the organization. Life for men today in corporate is not that easy because there are all kinds of rules. For example, posh legislation has come in, and many people are scared. Many men are scared of having women in their teams. Oh, if I say this, what will happen? My career might go for a toss. All kinds of things. So there are concerns on men's front as well. The second, I think, big leverage we have. And again it's back to more societal, is a lot of the men at workplace have girl children. They have girls and they are studying, and they are the new generation, so they want to work, they want fairness and inclusion. And many of the people, men in the workforce, have sisters who are also in the workforce. And the moment you make this emotional connection with them, saying, okay, wouldn't you want a fair, equitable place for your daughter to go work in, or for your sister to be working in? And then kind of they begin to see how it's bigger than just a workplace syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Archana. Toshi, back to you once again. If you can take one more questions
Oh,
from
yes,
the
certainly.
audience.
Certainly, Asif. And I have the honor of reading it, the one that comes from Nathan. Uh,
Oh, great.
so, panel member, there's one question that we have. It says, what is your one mantra for women to get to where they all are today at the top of the career you choose?
Wow.
Nathan can answer that much better than all of us, but if
Absolutely.
I can just say that I think define your own success, and I think definition of success varies from person to person, and there's no single path or single formula that that works. I think define what's important to you and see what's the best option. Really, that's what I would say to the women and the men as well. What's important to you, and then go with that. And I'll
Yeah.
just give you one example, maybe that might help the context of what I'm saying. For example, many times in my career, I thought, is my family need me? Should I give up my job? And of course, like I said, I built a strong sort of support system at home. But there were also a couple of times when I got an international opportunity and I didn't take it because I couldn't leave my family. But that's a choice I made, along with my family, right? So do you think I lost out? I don't know, but that's a call I took, and that for me, it's fine. I'm fine with that choice. So I think that's what I would say. Define your success.
Oh, fantastic. I'd like, Archana and Seema also to comment on this because this is very, very great questions.
Absolutely.
So I just posted actually in the group saying, never ever give up is my mantra. I mean, whatever it is, play the game. I mean, I know of even
Oh,
people, women who just leave their careers and go. Don't do that today. I mean, there are so many opportunities to, work flexibly, work part time, work as a consultant, work one day a week, for half the pay. All of which was not available 20 years ago. So always stay in the game, contributing and as a professional, one way or another. And if you'll get there eventually, you'll get to what you want to do.
fantastic. And Seema, your thoughts?
Yes, my thoughts are a little different. I don't know
Mhm.
whether people would agree or not, but this has really helped me. When I started my career way back in the late 80s, my brother taught me one thing, and I also believe in it. Uh, the fact is that nobody is indispensable, right? We believe in
Mm.
that. But try
True.
to make yourself indispensable by learning things. Okay. So when I was doing my graduation and my specialization, I never said that I don't know how to handle the front office. Our days we used to have telex machines, you know. So I wanted to learn that also, whether it was related to me or not. So that hunger for learning new skills should be there, because these
Mm.
days, and I think it's not only for women, it's for gender neutral, I'm saying. These days I see youngsters, oh yeah, this is not my job, this is not on my job description,
Mhm.
you know, and they want to just stick to that. But if you stick to that, you will get only that much. So from your inside you should have that hunger for learning things, you know. So that is my mantra. And that's how I chose to be in different industries. I chose to be in liquor industry, now in defense industry, you know, across. So don't
Absolutely.
block your mind that you cannot do it. So
Yeah.
that's my mantra.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Great. Thank you so much, Seema. I think. And Madhavi, would you like to add anything here? I think you've already
I've
said
covered. Thank you.
covered a lot. So now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to have a rapid fire round. So the answers has to be brief, and I'll ask each one of you three questions, and let's hope hopefully it should be fun. I think, huh? So let me start with um, Seema. Okay. So, Seema, in 5 lines, can you explain what is a day for you, which starts, what's a day for you like in
Okay.
5 lines?
Okay, 5 lines. Number one, start my day with positive affirmations. Since I follow Buddhism, so my day starts with chanting,
Yeah.
spiritual, this, that, and that sets the tone for my day. And I want to see things. So sometimes when I'm working from home, I want to go and meet my mother-in-law downstairs and check on her how she's doing, right? So be there, and my girls are there, so be there with them. Of course, be there with your team members also. So be there everywhere
Okay.
as much as you can. So that's how my day goes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, now next question. Um, what are the 3 words that best describes you? I'm so happy. At least
Asif,
I'm
we are
making.
women. Asif, we are women leaders, so we will wait for someone to ask us to speak before we speak. So please tell who should speak.
Okay, sure. So again, this again to Seema, because we're going to ask 3 questions, then we'll come back to Archana and Madhvi. So, Seema, 3 words that describes you.
Okay, describes me fun loving,
Hmm.
empathetic, and inclusive leader.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. And I think the last questions, if you could switch job with someone, who would that be?
I know it's a rapid fire. I want to switch jobs with all and see how they work out together. Not
That was
only
the
one
whole.
role, you know. I
whole
do multiple roles. Yeah,
okay,
but
fantastic.
my
Okay.
leaders' heads, and I want to see how why they crib all the time. So I want to really see that.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, now I'm coming back to Madhavi. Madhavi, if you was not a HR leader, which career would have you chosen?
I always wanted to do my PhD in mathematics, so I would have been a mathematician, hopefully.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. So
Didn't have the
what?
brains for it, I think.
Really, Madhavi? Seriously, I mean, math was something that I was not very good at. But anyways, And the second question: what did you want it to be when you were a child? Let's say in 17 years or 18 years, just to be precise.
17, 18. Okay, I was trying to go back much earlier in my childhood. I
Hmm.
always wanted to do maths, so for me, maths was something that I wanted to do, pursue. So yeah, I think at
Okay.
17, 18 was very clear that it's going to be maths. I got into HR by accident, really, but enjoying every minute,
Okay. But
enjoying
it's a
every minute.
blessing in disguise, right?
Well, yeah, happy
Right.
with it.
Okay. Okay. So, Martin, where would you? I know you've probably seen so many countries, but which is one dream vacation that you wanted to have?
Asif, many, many. So this is one question that I think any new place, I don't have enough years left in my life to see all the places I want to, but hopefully we'll see as many as I can.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Madhvi. I'll come back to Archana now. Um, what are your three most overused words, Archana, which you always speak in your conversation?
Have fun. Have fun. Take care of yourself.
Oh,
That's it.
fantastic. Wow, very nice, very nice. Um, so, Archana, what are three topics that you can actually talk about without any preparation?
If you talk, if, this is recency effect, I have to say, but ESG. I'd love to talk
Oh,
about ESG at any time. I'd love to
okay.
talk about well-being at any time because this is one of the things many of us have imbibed during the last couple of years.
Wow, wow. Okay, ESG, well-being, and Regency effect, right? Wow,
Yes.
fantastic, fantastic. So, um, okay. If you were not a CHRO, what you have been? I asked Madhavi this, and I'm asking you as well.
You know what? I'm a no regrets person. So I would be doing anything and love what I do.
So there's no accident HR here, right?
No, it was accidental, but I would not let away this one.
Okay, okay, all right, great, great, absolutely. Okay, so now I'm going back to Seema again, then we'll come back to you, Archana. Seema, what's the best thing that happened to you this week?
I managed to coach two of my team members, and it was so heartening and so great to know that they were looking for a breakthrough and they managed to get that. So it's not
Wow.
because of my coaching. I am not taking the credit. It's because of their own, empowering that they could come out. So that's the best thing that happened.
Wow, fantastic. Seema, what is the lifestyle which you have made a change, which you have made it in 2021?
I think, as I said earlier, also more focus on health and balanced approach.
Wow.
And I don't want to be like, again, I said, superwoman, guilt nahi hona hai. Whatever you do it best from heart. Something you cannot do it, so don't regret about it, have regret about it.
Okay.
That's the best.
All right. So, Seema, let me ask you a difficult question. What is one thing that you have learned from your younger colleague, let's say, who just joined the organization?
I
A
think,
few years.
yes, conviction, the
Okay.
confidence. We were not so confident in my younger years. If I look back, the kind of confidence, that conviction, with conviction they can do things. I think that's I really admire.
Wow. Okay. Coming to Madhavi, what is the millennium lingo that you have picked up, Madhavi, in your recent interactions?
The one that I picked up is it's woke. So the first time I read it, I said, "What does it mean?" But then I looked it up, and the other one I really like is yo.
Okay. My daughter always say that, to me, but today I
Yo.
don't know. Wow. Okay. And what's some of the best business advice you have ever gotten, Madhavi?
So this I think if I look back to my entire career, if I look at the best, I think there was a person who used to say, the business heads used to always say things like, "Inspect what you expect," which I think is, such a deep advice in a very simple form. Inspect what you expect. It's like,
Oh,
that's me.
I'm tempted to add my answer to
Yes,
this,
please,
Asif,
please, please, Archana, feel free.
which is really for in today's world. It's very important to have the ability to go to the balcony and take a view of what's happening on the dance floor, and then have the ability to come to the dance floor and dance there as well. So the balcony view and the dance floor.
Yeah,
Wow,
balcony
very.
concept. Absolutely, Archana.
I like that. I learned something new too today. Great. So, Madhavi, what is the favorite thing about your job? I know it's an accidental
Um,
HR, but nevertheless.
I love meeting people. I enjoy sort of talking to people. I like to have new insights, new perspectives. It gives me joy to sort of hear and take the feedback and incorporate into what we're doing in the function. It really sort of, for me, that's the part I
Wow.
enjoy the most.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, last question for you, Madhavi, for this. Okay. What is one thing that you have learned from me?
From you,
Yes.
super comparing. I don't think I'll ever do be able to do a great job as you've done, but super, and I'm sort of picking up some tips as you did the session.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for the compliment. Coming back to you, Archana. Um, what do you do in your free time or at your leisure time? I know you're a highly intellectual and Archana, but what do you do as fun?
I like to just laze, do nothing. So
Wow.
I will I believe that is one skill I've lost, and I'm trying very hard to gain it back, because when I'm free, I'm itching to pick up something, do something, read something, listen to something. But it's just being mindful of what's around you, observing, listening, not doing anything is what I do, trying to do very much these days.
Fantastic. So, Archana, if you remember back when you were 18, now going back now where you are today, what would the one advice that you would give to yourself when you were 18?
I was when, like Madhvi also said, I think when we got into the workforce, we were focused on finding a livelihood, actually, because I also came from a, kind of middle income background. And we were like focused on earning money and making a career and growing. I think the one advice that I will give to the generation is that today it's about focus on the multipliers on your learning and your professional growth. The money multipliers and the job multipliers will come, they will follow. The focus shouldn't be the job and money multiplier, it is the skill multiplier, it is the professional growth multiplier.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Brilliantly said, Asif. I just want to add something. Archana, this
Yes,
is
please.
brilliant. Your skill part. I think one advice I would give people is that spend more time with your parents. I think you won't realize it today, but as time progresses, you'll wish you had spent more time with them.
Wow. Fantastic.
Can I also add on to what
Yes, please, please, Seema.
I think it's about attitude. One needs to also look at how you look at things, positive, half glass full, or empty. That also matters. You may be little low on your functional technical competencies, but if your attitude is positive, you can sail through and you can rock.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Um, I'm conscious of the time. So, Toshi, can we take some questions from the audience?
Certainly, Asif, and the reactions that the audience is giving through all the emoticons is truly, truly heartwarming, and I'm sure all our panelists are able to see that. There's a slight one on mentorship. Let me take that, Asif, which says how important it is to have a mentor to grow as a leader.
Wow. This is the one of the question that I was going to ask at the end, but I'll request each of you to answer this from your perspective.
I think it's very important to have mentors, in your career, both for men and women, because as we sort of grow in the managerial hierarchy, it's of course about the skill, and your technical skills are really important, but it is about how you manage teams. What kind of vision do you build? How aligned are you to the organizational priorities, etc. So that comes through mentorship, where you can get that input into your sort of ways of working, or your leadership, or your managerial style. So I think it's really important from that perspective.
Brilliant. And Archana?
So I'd say extremely important to have a mentor, but I have two different takes on it. One is typically we've looked for mentors who are in the organization and who are senior to us. I think today's world is about learning from all kinds of people. Reverse, I would go for a mentor, and I've had mentors who are like fresh joinees in the organization, young leaders, and there's as much to learn from them as there is from other people. The second is, it's important to pick an area that you want to develop as a professional and find mentors who are subject matter experts, because this is an opportunity to pause, take time off from everyday work and reflect on how you're doing what you're doing. They bring perspective as nobody else does. So if it is social impact, it's social impact. If it's diversity, then find somebody who's great at externally who's doing diversity and find that mentor.
Fantastic. Seema, your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are slightly different. For me, mentor is not like time bound that I have to follow this mentor. Your mentor also shifts from time to time. You know, when you're younger, you look at your senior maybe as your mentor, and as you go, the journey, your mentor also shifts. So, mentor is somebody who basically gives you the colors and the canvas and say, this is my Mona Lisa, you can draw like that. So this I learned now. I mean, I always thought that that was the best, but once I learned coaching, I realized that there is a huge difference between mentoring coaching. And mentoring happened unconsciously, also mentoring happened throughout our career, in different forms or the other, through different people. Not always
There's a
a professional mentor. It could be somebody from family, somebody from, peer level, right? Yeah, Madhvi, you were saying
no,
something.
no, please complete. And I just wanted to add to a question that's come up in the chat. So.
Mhm.
No, that's it from my side.
Okay.
So
Yes.
there's a question on the chat which says that you have formal mentoring processes, or is it up to individuals to find a mentor? So let me talk about Deutsche Bank. We have a program called Mentoring Matters, which has been running for 5 years. In fact, I posted on LinkedIn recently on that. Basically, what we do is we have uh, people who identify as mentees. We look at what are the development skills that they require. So then we pick up top three, and we have mentors who are experts, and we do the mapping, based on what the requirements. So it's kind of a mapping, because you can't cover everything in the mentoring session. So we have a formal mentoring matters program. But I would say, in case your organization doesn't have a mentoring program, you can still seek out mentors. And I think Archana and Seema kind of touched on that. You can actually learn from everybody. You can get mentored by anybody. I think it shouldn't limit your own mentoring requirements.
Oh, fantastic. Toshi, we can take one last question from the audience. Then I'll have the closing questions, and then we can close the session.
Sure, Asif. I think there's a very recent one that has come in, which says, "What is the role of taking a pause in what you do as a leader?" So I repeat, it says, "What is the role of taking a pause in what you do as a leader?"
Wow, Madhvi, I would like you to try that question. I think that you've already
No, I think
spoken
it's
during
a
the conversation.
brilliant, brilliant question. And
Yes.
taking a pause, right? PAUSE,
Mhm.
if I could see the question on yeah.
Yes, yes, that's right,
Yeah.
Madhuri.
I think it's a very, very important question. And whoever's posted it, I think, hats off to you for thinking of that, because you have to sort of, I think I don't know, periodically you have to take a pause and see where you're headed. Reflect on what you've done in the last, sort of say 6 months or a year, and see what are things that need to change. So I think it's a fabulous question. I think even as individuals, I think we should pause and reflect and see what we. I do that on a monthly basis to say, in the month, what have I kind of done? What have I really achieved? And then I make a list of things to do, which run into pages for the next quarter. So I think it's really, really a good question, and I think very, very important. Very, very important. Pause, reflect, you know, redo your priorities.
Oh,
So I
brilliant.
just add to that, Asif. I think for me,
Yes.
pausing is extremely important, and for me, my ritual for pause is the end of the day, and it starts with taking stock of my energy, and then I know when my energy is low that there is something in the day that's happened that hasn't kind of worked, and there are days when I work very hard, but still my energy is good, and I know that the day has been productive and good for me. So that's the point of reflection. I look back and saying, okay, what was it that worked and what was it that didn't work? What do I need to do differently for tomorrow? And automatically my next day restarts after the sleep cycle on a good note.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Seema, any thoughts on this?
Yeah. So in Mahindra, we have something called reflective conversations. It's a complete module where we are training all the managers, the leaders, like how to take that pause, how to be proactive than reactive through your reflective conversations. So a lot of focus is going on that. So consciously we are doing it, but as I said, unconsciously it takes time to be reflective. But it is very powerful tool, if we start practicing.
Absolutely.
We can
Absolutely.
avoid many things, being reflective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of takeaways. Personally, I had, one of the key takeaways that I really, really admire for me personally, and I'm sure audience also, is there's a lot of upskilling, learning new skills, and keep learning. And before we conclude, and before I go on to the final question, I just wanted to share a little bit about one skills which I have picked up. Actually, about 4 years back, I was diagnosed with high blood pressures and I was actually overweight. And then I decided to take up running. So naturally, I have 0% visibility, as Toshi mentioned. And I used to run by holding people's hand, and I used to run maybe kilometers, and when I used to see people practicing from marathons, that used to get me excited. And I just want, and there was a friend of mine who actually trained me, literally trained me how to run without holding hands and just on voice guidance. So my fellow runners imagine running with me at the same speed, same pace, and telling me if there is a bad patch of roads, or if there is a speed bump, if I have to take slight left or slight right. And with practice, I managed to do a half marathon, which is 21 kilometers. I mean, and this is one skill that I'm really, really proud of, that I'm so happy that I picked up. And maybe someday I will make this world record in by being the first blind runner just on a voice guidance. And hopefully, when we have the marathon and official events in the post-COVID era. But again, I think this is very, very important that each one of you has signified, the importance of upskilling and learning. And my last question to each one of you, we will start with Archana. Archana, one last message that you'd like to, a word of advice to our HR colleague or HR community.
Yeah, it's the last 2 years for everybody has been very tough. It shifted humanity, it shifted individuals, it shifted societies. It's taught us very many different ways of living life more fully. I think gratitude is one thing I hold on to. I think it's important that you're grateful for what you have, and it's important that you connect with your other human beings as human beings, and not necessarily in the artificial bubbles that we have created for ourselves in the corporate world. So that would be my advice.
Fantastic. What about you, Madhvi?
I think I would say that as HR, whatever we do, whether it's policies, processes, any initiatives, they need to impact the last person on the ground. And if they're not doing that, then don't do them. That's what I would say.
Fantastic. And about you, Seema?
Yeah, for me is we start with because business is there, so we HR is required, and later we convert to trying to convert to because HR is there, then business is there. I think that's a huge gap, and most of the younger lot, they get very, very carried away with the fact that because of them the business is there. So I think somewhere we need to also appreciate and realize that, yeah, create that balance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, audience. And really grateful, great questions coming in. And we are really, really grateful to all three of you, Seema, Madhavi, and Archana. I mean, you guys have been very, very candid and very, very powerful in your responses, and it's been wonderful, absolutely a privilege once again to host you and to be a moderator of this. And over to you, Toshi, and thank you, Nathan, for giving me this wonderful opportunity of hosting this eminent personality, which I would have never got to meet. And again, it's a great honor. Thank you, everyone, once again. Over to you, Toshi.
Thank you. Oh my God, what a power-packed hour we've just had. With powerful questions from Asif and equally candid, authentic responses from all three leaders here, Archana, Seema, and Madhvi. Asif, you're such an inspiration to so many of us who are here and so many who know who around you are. There are so many messages in the chat window. I wish I could pack them all up and kind of read it out to you later after the session. But we thank each one of you for taking time out today for today's session. Certainly a very impactful one. And to the audience, I urge you all to hop on to the next interesting lineup for you right in the next window. Thank you so much. Have a brilliant evening ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Asif.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
all.
Bye, Archana. Bye,
Thank
Madhvi. Bye, Seema.
Bye bye. Take care.
ये थोड़ा सा बंद कर दीजिएगा.